This is the last word of Lawrence O'Donnell, March 30th, 2021.
Just tonight, Ted Lieu, a Democrat, is calling on me to be removed from the House Judiciary Committee. And I believe we are in an era of our politics now, Tucker, where people are smeared to try to take them out of the conversation. I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act.
Well, Tucker actually managed to hold on to his Tucker face, while Matt Gaetz was suddenly trying to pull Tucker Carlson down to his level, accused of possible sex crimes. Tucker then clarified later by mentioning to his obvious befuddlement that Matt Gaetz was apparently referring to a 20-year-old accusation against Tucker Carlson that most of us knew nothing about until Matt Gaetz brought it up tonight to use as a shield against a stunning story that broke in the New York Times this evening about Congressman Matt Gaetz being investigated by the FBI and the Justice Department, quote, over whether he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for her to travel with him, according to 3 people briefed on the matter. The Times reports that the investigation was opened in the final months of the Trump administration under the supervision of Attorney General William Barr. The investigation began after a friend of Matt Gaetz, Joel Greenberg, was indicted last summer on charges that included sex trafficking of a child. With friends like Joel Greenberg, who was a political ally of Matt Gaetz in Florida, these kinds of things happen. Mr. Greenberg is also friendly with Roger Stone. In his angry response to the New York Times story tonight on Tucker Carlson's show, Matt Gaetz spun a wild tale involving an extortion plot that he first outlined earlier this evening on Twitter.
It is a horrible allegation, and it is a lie. The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that that is not the case. What is happening is an extortion of me and my family involving a former Department of Justice official. On March 16th, my father got a text message demanding a meeting wherein a person demanded $25 million in exchange for making horrible sex trafficking allegations against me go away. Our family was so troubled by that, we went to the local FBI. And the FBI and the Department of Justice were so concerned about this attempted extortion of a member of Congress that they asked my dad to wear a wire, which he did with the former Department of Justice official. Tonight, I am demanding that the Department of Justice and the FBI release the audio recordings that were made under their supervision and at their direction, which will prove my innocence and that will show that these allegations aren't true. They're merely intended to try to bleed my family out of money.
Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu of California. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee. And Congressman Lieu, I just want to note for the audience that the FBI and the Justice Department have had no comment tonight on the challenge issued to them by Congressman Gaetz. What is your reaction to Congressman Gaetz' defense so far?
Thank you, Lawrence, for your question. During that entire bizarre interview, Congressman Matt Gaetz does not deny the existence of a federal investigation against him that is looking at whether or not he had sexual relations with a 17-year-old girl and that she traveled across state lines and was induced by him to do so with payments or hotel stays and so on. That by itself is a very serious charge. And if it's true, if he in fact had sexual relations with an underage minor, I know that Florida law also makes it a felony to do so. So Matt Gaetz is facing very serious charges right now, and his defense is bizarre and it doesn't shield him from these investigations.
The defense, if we can call it that, I don't know if we can call it that, because I think you've pointed out quite clearly what I was seeing and what he was saying is I didn't ever hear in anything he has said today the specific denial of such a relationship. In fact, he brought up to Tucker Carlson that he was out to dinner with Tucker Carlson a couple of years ago with another girlfriend. Let's listen to that. Or I guess we don't.
Actually, you and I went to dinner about 2 years ago. Your wife was there, and I brought a friend of mine. You'll remember her. And she was actually threatened by the FBI, told that if she wouldn't cop to the fact that somehow I was involved in some pay-for-play scheme, that she could face trouble.
And there's going to be some trouble corroborating that because Tucker Carlson then said he had no memory of that dinner or meeting that person. But the tale just gets wider and wider as Matt Gaetz talks about it.
Basically, what Matt Gaetz just did is he made Tucker Carlson a witness
Yes, he
to
did.
this investigation now. I also know that Matt Gaetz has in the past spun wild tales about a variety of different subjects. So it's not surprising that he would spin this wild tale. But again, the fact that someone, even if it's true in March, tried to extort him or his family to allegedly make this case go away doesn't change the fact that there is a case. There is a very serious federal investigation open under the Trump administration. And I'm a former prosecutor. They don't just do this out of nothing. There's got to be a factual predicate. And at the Department of Justice, there's going to be a whole team of federal agents and prosecutors investigating Matt Gaetz. So he's in some deep trouble, and that's why he needs to be removed from the House Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, he's saying that the extortion plot started just a few weeks ago on March 16th, and it was started by someone who no longer works in the Justice Department, but was an assistant U.S. attorney in Florida under the Trump administration. That person no longer working in an investigation that's currently going on would, of course, have absolutely no power or influence over that investigation. Matt Gaetz said that this person has said that that Joe Biden would pardon Matt Gaetz. That was part of what he threw in to his discussion with Tucker Carlson tonight.
Their tales that Matt Gaetz spins get crazier and crazier. There is no evidence that a former Department of Justice official somehow would have any linkage to the president or why the president would even conceivably pardon Matt Gaetz. And right now we have the situation in Congress where you have a sitting member of Congress, Matt Gaetz, on the House Judiciary Committee that has oversight over the very department that's investigating him. That's an untenable situation, and Matt Gaetz either should leave the Judiciary Committee voluntarily or he should be removed until the investigation is completed.
Congressman Ted Lieu, thank you very much for joining us on this breaking news tonight.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you. Up next, a former federal prosecutor, Cynthia Oxney, will join us on where this criminal investigation of Congressman Gaetz might be going.